Funny how losing everything makes you notice who's been standing right beside you all along. I muttered that, half in jest, half because my heart was hammering against my ribs like it had a secret it couldn't hold in. Across from me, he looked broken, truly broken, and in that instant, I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. Ethan, my teacher, my alpha, had always carried himself with an unshakable pride, the kind that commanded respect in a classroom of restless teenagers. At 28, he was tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of man whose mere presence could silence a room. Yet here he was, slumped in the corner of his own empty classroom, papers scattered like a fallen kingdom around him, eyes hollow and distant. The scandal had hit him hard: financial ruin, public disgrace, whispers of betrayal from colleagues he once trusted. And I had been watching it all from the sidelines, aching quietly, because I knew him better than anyone else. I remember that day vividly. The rain was tapping against the large windows, a soft, relentless rhythm that mirrored my racing thoughts. I had debated endlessly whether I should step closer, whether I should cross the line of student and teacher to offer him comfort. Society's rules screamed at me. My own logic fought the impulse, but my heart, me stubborn, relentless heart, won. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked toward him. "Mr. Reynolds," I whispered softly, almost afraid he wouldn't hear me. His head lifted slowly, the weight of exhaustion heavy in his eyes. There was a flicker of recognition, a faint pulse of warmth, and I knew I had him. "Jamie." His voice was a low, broken hum, barely audible over the rain. "What are you doing here?" I knelt beside him, careful not to invade too much space, though my body wanted nothing more than to collapse against his. "I'm here because you're not alone," I said, my hand hovering over his trembling one. He looked down, and I could see the hesitation, the walls he had built around his heart. But I didn't wait for permission. I took his hand gently in mine, warm and small, and held it tight. For a moment, silence hung between us. The kind of silence that isn't awkward, but charged, alive with emotion, with unspoken confessions and shared pain. I could feel the tension in his body, the subtle stiffening of muscles, the alpha instinct to protect, to resist, but also the omega craving for connection that was deep inside him, buried under layers of pride and shame. "I know you've lost everything," I continued, my voice barely above a whisper. "But not me. I'm here. And I want to be with you." Ethan's eyes widened, disbelief warring with something softer, something tender that he didn't dare voice. "Jamie, This isn't." His words faltered, drowned in the roar of the rain outside, and I pressed a thumb lightly against the back of his hand. "It doesn't matter," I said firmly. "I don't care about titles or age or what everyone thinks. I care about you." And then, something remarkable happened. His shoulders, so often squared with the weight of responsibility, relaxed slightly. The tension in his jaw softened. A tear slipped down his cheek, and I couldn't stop the shiver that ran through me. This was him, Ethan, my alpha, vulnerable, fragile, and achingly human. I've never felt like this before," he admitted, voice cracking. "Not with anyone. I didn't think anyone would." "You don't have to think," I interrupted gently. "Just feel. Feel me." Our fingers intertwined more securely, the warmth of his hand sending a rush of emotion through me. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, he allowed himself to lean closer, a subtle, hesitant movement that spoke volumes. He wasn't giving in entirely, not yet, but the walls had cracks now, and I could see the light behind them. I leaned my forehead lightly against his. "You don't have to face the world alone anymore. I'll be here, always." And in that simple gesture, the storm outside mirrored the one within us, a mix of fear, longing, and the tentative spark of hope. I saw him take a shaky breath, his chest rising and falling as if he were anchoring himself to my presence. "Jamie, you're bold," he whispered, and there was a small, wry smile tugging at his lips. "Mad, brave, foolish. Maybe all of the above?" I teased softly, letting my thumb trace little circles over his hand. But I couldn't let you drown alone. Ethan's eyes glimmered, a storm of emotion. Pride, fear, and something far deeper, far more human. I knew then that the connection between us was not just desire. It was recognition. Two hearts, lost in their own worlds, finally finding resonance in each other. Days turned into weeks, and our bond grew quietly, fiercely, in the small moments stolen between lectures, in shared coffees, in whispered conversations in empty hallways. The public scandal faded in comparison to the intimacy we nurtured behind closed doors. I learned how he liked his tea, how he flinched when startled, the way his eyes softened when he laughed genuinely. And he learned, slowly, how I cherished him, how I understood the subtle cues of his alpha nature, and how I was willing to step up as his omega to balance him, to ground him. One evening, under the dim glow of the street lamps outside the school, I found myself braver than ever. I had been thinking about this moment for weeks, planning it in my mind 1,000 different ways. But nothing could have prepared me for the raw, trembling vulnerability of the man standing before me now. "Ethan," I said, voice steady despite the racing of my heart. "I know things have been messy, chaotic, but I don't care about any of that. I care about us, about you, and I want to ask you something." His brows furrowed slightly, and he tilted his head, curiosity mingling with that ever-present guardedness. "Ask me what, Jamie?" I took a deep breath, stepping closer so that our foreheads nearly touched. "Will you be with me? Not just here, not just now. Will you let me be yours? Fully? Always?" For a heartbeat, he didn't move. Then, slowly, almost reluctantly, he reached out, cupping my cheek, his thumb brushing against my skin with the gentlest touch I had ever felt. You really mean that?" "With everything I have," I whispered. A tear slipped down his face again, and this time he didn't bother hiding it. The weight of his past, the shame and fear, melted away just a little under the warmth of our shared connection. Then, with a trembling hand, he entwined his fingers with mine, the final, unspoken agreement passing between us. I will," he said, voice low but certain, and my heart soared in response. That night, under the soft glow of the streetlights and the quiet hum of the city, we held each other close, not as teacher and student, but as two souls daring to defy the world together. The storm had passed, but its echoes lingered in the way we clung to one another, fierce and tender, desperate and beautiful. And for the first time, Ethan allowed himself to truly smile. Not a mask of control, not the weary expression of someone who carries the world on his shoulders, but a real smile. One that reached his eyes, lighting them up with a vulnerable, unguarded warmth. I kissed his temple gently, my heart whispering the truth I had carried silently for so long. I would never let him face the world alone again. And he, finally, allowed himself to lean into me fully, accepting my hand, my presence, my love. The road ahead would not be easy. The whispers of the past, the challenges of a world that would not understand, would test us endlessly. But in that quiet moment, with our fingers intertwined and hearts beating in unison, we had found something that no scandal, no judgment, no fear could ever take away: each other. The weeks following our unspoken commitment became a delicate dance of discovery, trust, and vulnerability. Ethan and I navigated this new reality carefully, understanding that the world outside might not be as forgiving as the quiet cocoon we had created in the corners of the city. But the beauty of it was undeniable. We're no longer two solitary hearts. We were a single rhythm, tentative yet unwavering. One late afternoon, the golden light of autumn streaming through the classroom windows, I found Ethan staring out at the playground below, lost in thought. He had returned to teaching part-time, slowly reclaiming the life that had been stripped from him, but there was a weight in his gaze that clung to him like a shadow. "Thinking about the past again?" I asked softly, sliding into the seat beside him. He shook his head slightly, though his eyes never left the scene outside. "It's not the past," he murmured. "It's what comes next. I've always been so in control, Jamie, but now I feel exposed." I reached out, placing my hand over his, Being exposed doesn't mean being alone. I'm here. Always. A small smile curved his lips, the first in days that held genuine warmth. You really are bold, he whispered, a hint of amusement threading through his voice. I was never ready for anyone like you. And I was never ready for anyone like you either, I admitted, brushing my thumb over his knuckles. But here we are. Ready or not. He let out a quiet laugh, a sound that seemed to release some of the tension coiled in his chest. Slowly, he turned to me, eyes glimmering with a mixture of fear and desire. Jamie, I don't want to ruin this. I don't want to hurt you. You won't, I said firmly. We'll figure it out together. I trust you. That night, we walked through the quiet streets of the city, the cool breeze carrying the scent of rain-soaked asphalt and distant coffee shops. Our hands were intertwined, the simple gesture a defiance against the world that had tried to break him. Every step felt like reclaiming a part of ourselves we had long lost: freedom, choice, and the raw, undeniable connection between an alpha and an omega who had dared to risk it all. In the weeks that followed, intimacy between us deepened, not just physical, but emotional. Ethan allowed himself to lean on me, confide in me, and sometimes even beg for comfort when the nightmares of his past came to haunt him. I, in turn, shared my own insecurities, my own fears, creating a fragile yet unbreakable bond. We were learning each other's rhythms, the subtle cues that spoke louder than words, the touches that healed, the looks that ignited sparks of desire and trust. One evening, after a particularly long day at the school, Ethan leaned against my chest in the quiet of his apartment, the city lights painting soft patterns on the walls. I never thought I'd feel safe again, he murmured, his voice muffled against my shoulder. You are safe, I whispered back, running my fingers through his dark hair. With me, always. He lifted his head slightly, meeting my gaze. I never knew what it meant to be cared for without expectation. You've given me that, Jamie. And I want to give you the same. The intensity in his eyes, the sincerity in his words, sent shivers down my spine. I cupped his face gently, leaning in until our foreheads touched. You already have, I said softly. Every day, in every way. Our lips met in a tender kiss, hesitant at first, exploring the boundaries of newfound trust. But soon, the restraint melted away, replaced by a raw, urgent need to hold, to connect, to claim the solace we had found in each other. The world outside might have been harsh, judgmental, unforgiving, but here, in this apartment, under the muted glow of streetlights, there was only us, alpha and omega, broken yet whole, lost yet found. Days turned into months, and with each passing one, Ethan slowly rebuilt his life. He returned to teaching fully, earning back the respect of colleagues and students alike, not just because of his skill but because of the resilience he now carried in his heart. The scandal faded into a distant memory, its sting replaced by the warmth of the love we shared, and we became inseparable. One rainy afternoon, I found Ethan standing by the window, staring at the droplets sliding down the glass. He looked weary but alive, a man who had faced the storm and emerged stronger. I approached, wrapping my arms around him from behind, resting my chin on his shoulder. You're beautiful, I murmured, my lips brushing the curve of his neck. He leaned back slightly, letting out a soft laugh. I don't feel beautiful. Then let me remind you, I whispered, pressing gentle kisses along his jawline. Because I see you, Ethan. All of you. And I love every part of you. Tears welled in his eyes, and he rested his forehead against mine. Jamie, I love you too. In that moment, all the fear, all the pain, all the scars of the past seemed to melt away. We had found each other not just in spite of the world, but because of it. The hardships, the heartbreaks, the moments of doubt, they had led us here, to this quiet, profound happiness. The following evening, I led him to a small rooftop garden we had discovered near his apartment. The city stretched out below us, lights twinkling like stars that had descended to the earth. I took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment, and knelt down on one knee. Ethan, I began, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I know life has thrown everything at you, stripped you bare, and left you questioning who you are. But through it all, you've shown me courage, vulnerability, and a heart so fierce I can't imagine my life without it. I want to be with you not just tonight, not just in secret, but always. Will you let me be yours? Forever. His eyes widened, disbelief mingling with emotion. He opened his mouth, but no words came. I held my breath, feeling the weight of every second, the history of our journey condensed into this singular moment. Finally, he nodded, tears streaming freely now. Yes, Jamie, yes, I will. I slid the ring onto his finger, and he pulled me into a fierce, desperate embrace. The world below could crumble, the whispers of judgment could rise, but up here, in the soft glow of city lights and in the shelter of our shared love, nothing else mattered. In the days that followed, we made plans not just for a wedding, but for a life together. We painted walls, arranged furniture, argued over tiny details, laughed until our sides hurt, and held each other close in quiet moments that needed no words. Every touch, every glance, every whispered, "I love you," reinforced the bond we had forged through fire and sorrow. Ethan, once a man burdened by pride and expectation, learned the beauty of surrender. I, an Omega who had dared to reach beyond the boundaries set by the world, discovered the strength in vulnerability. Together, we became a testament to love's power to heal, to transform, and to endure. On the morning of our wedding, the sun rose over the city in a blaze of gold and pink, casting long shadows and bathing everything in warmth. Ethan looked at me, his dark eyes shining with a mixture of nerves and joy. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "You look incredible," I whispered. "So do you," he replied, his voice husky with emotion. "I can't believe this is real." "It is," I said softly, "because we made it real. Together." We exchanged vows in a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by a handful of friends and colleagues who had witnessed our journey. Every word spoken, every tear shed, every laugh shared was a celebration of survival, of courage, and of the love that had blossomed against all odds. When we finally kissed as husband and husband, it was not just a kiss, it was a promise. A promise that no matter what storms came, no matter the scars of the past, we would face them together. That we had found something rare and precious, something worth holding onto fiercely, each other. The world outside continued on, bustling and chaotic, but within the walls of our home, in the quiet moments before sleep, in the laughter echoing through shared meals and playful arguments, we had found eternity. The Alpha and the Omega, once broken, now whole, bound by choice, by courage, and by a love that refused to be silenced. And as Ethan rested his head on my chest one quiet night, murmuring words of affection and gratitude, I knew without a doubt that we had not just survived, we had thrived. We had dared to love, dared to hope, and dared to build a life together. A life that was ours, perfectly, unflinchingly, beautifully ours. In the end, it wasn't the world's acceptance that mattered. It wasn't the past, the scandal, or the judgments that defined us. It was the small, intimate moments, the shared glances, the whispered confessions in the dark, the hands held tightly against the fears of the night. It was the courage to reach across the chasm of pain and despair and find another soul willing to do the same. And in that courage, in that daring, we found everything we had ever needed. Love, trust, happiness, togetherness. As I drifted to sleep with Ethan's arms around me, the city lights painting soft patterns on our walls, I whispered into the quiet night, "We did it, Ethan. We really did it." And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, he smiled, not a shadow of his old, guarded self, but fully, completely, undeniably happy. Because we had each other, and that was enough. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.